All right, all right, all right. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Talking Comics with Julius Freeman. I'm your host, and with me today is Purple Smurf and Michael Derrick.
Oh my gosh. We got the whole country covered. Locked down the East Coast, locked down the West Coast, locked down Texas. We got it on.
We got the Pacific Mountain Time. Wait, Mountain Time or Central Time? I don't know. Where's it?
I don't know.
Texas has its own time.
I will say Central Time and Eastern Time.
Yeah,
Got the whole country covered.
The whole country, yeah.
It's
an exciting
How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good, yeah.
Doing good?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're just gonna shoot from the hip and just talk comics and talk some of your projects and by the way, I backed your campaign today, Michael, so I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I got the digital copy, and hopefully
Awesome.
hopefully you'll get a little bump. Hopefully you get a little bump tonight because you're only 3 days left, and you're not that far off, man. You're
Not
really,
even.
really close.
You're really close.
Yeah,
So,
very, very close.
so let's hope you get there, man. Let's hope you get that goal, because
Yeah.
that'd be awesome if you can get that.
Yeah, let's see what we
fingers
can do.
crossed.
Yeah, we'll do what we can tonight to nudge you ever so close.
Yes.
You know. All right, so hey, there we go. Reticulous. Yeah. A lot of people, I'm surprised how few people know that the reptilians' homeworld is Zeta Reticuli. Michael, I thought that was common knowledge,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
you
me
know
too.
it, I know it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll think of this as infotainment. You're not just entertaining, you're informing.
Yeah, I figured, well, yeah, it was funny because some people thought it had to do with the eye because, his reticle. And then some people, obviously it is a pun on ridiculous. So it's, got multiple meanings. So,
Right, it works many ways.
Yeah.
It sure does. It sure does. All right. Well, how's the weather over there with you guys?
It's been freezing in my part of the world. It's been freezing, man. It's been freezing.
Yeah,
Where are you
we
at
just
right
went through the snowstorm over in Texas.
Yeah, how'd you guys? Did you guys recover okay over there? Is it all back to normal now? Is there still freak weather?
No, it's like it never happened, which is pretty par for the course for Texas. I mean, we're used to the weather going crazy, but just not like that.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. Yeah, my dad lives in San Antonio, so when I video called him, he explained to me, he's like, I've lived here for he lived there for 10 years now, so he's like, I've never seen snow like that before in my life in Texas, especially in the winter time. So he says it's weird. He said he was tripping out. He just never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, I've lived in Texas my whole life. I thought I saw snow like a couple years ago because it kind of snowed in Austin, but that wasn't snow compared to what we actually had this year. So now I can officially say I've seen snow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, yeah, and more of it, like a lot of it too. It was freaking crazy. Hopefully, not many people, perished because of it. I know there are probably a lot of unreported. I don't even was there like a high death count or
I mean, I don't know what the final numbers were, but I know, some people unfortunately did because the power went out, so a lot of people died of I guess hypothermia, which is really sad.
Oh man, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, that's a cheerful subject. Yeah, let's get into that. Oh yeah, let's see how we're doing.
Changing subjects.
Changing subjects. Yeah. In this story, only fictional characters die, so that's good. That's good.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all in the imagination, Tales of Zero, dude, is doing great, man.
I know. I can't believe
so far. 15 days left, and you got 650. You're $100 away.
I'm $100 away. I'm really psyched. I know. It's like the day it launched, man. I didn't check it for 12 hours. I just didn't. I couldn't look at it,
Right.
And so the whole day I'm talking to myself like, oh, it's okay. You have 60 days. You can be there in 60 days, like begging for $20. It's okay to publicly embarrass yourself. That's all right. That's all right. It'll just show that you're sincere, and that you've been humiliated and you're still cool. And then when I checked, I was like, what? We're 50% funded in 12 hours? Oh my God.
Awesome.
So I felt
crazy,
great.
yeah.
Felt great, and I feel like we're
man,
closing.
it's the future, dude. Like people are looking for something new, and I think crowdfunding campaigning is definitely a big help for indie creators to get started. You know, now all we have to do is just convince a few readers, and more likely you'll probably find a good amount of readers who like something like this. Like you said, this is a mixture of what'd you say, Indiana Jones and
Aliens.
So hey, that's a good
nice.
combination. A lot of people will like something
Oh,
like
that's
that.
exactly what it's supposed to be. It's like back in the day, if Aliens or Raiders of the Lost Ark came on cable and you walked in the room, you'd sit down and you'd be like, oh, just let me watch this one scene. And then an hour and a half later, you're still there because every scene leads to the next and you can't get up. And that's the kind of effect I wanted this story to have. It doesn't have to be deep and meaningful. It's just fun. It's just a fun old school pulp sci-fi adventure with like some scares and laughs, and it's just a ride. It's just a fun ride. And then I tried to give it this weathered look. Everything is like looking a little old and ratted-tatted. So I really am happy with the aesthetic, even though I know it doesn't quite look like what anyone else is doing. I feel really good about it. I feel like when you get into it, it's like you're watching the movie. You're watching the VHS, and the VHS has been played too many times, and the tracking is off. And like that's how I want it to feel.
Yeah.
That like there's a dimension to it that's real, and then there's a dimension that's always a little out of focus, or something doesn't quite line up, and that just keeps your eye really active on the page. Yeah,
I'm getting a lot of Eddie Campbell vibes with this style. From Hell, from the artist from Hell. I like it because Eddie Campbell's style was very with the pen, I think, with the pen and almost like chicken scratches a lot of the time, but it worked. It worked for the story and, like you said, the aesthetic. So this is kind of giving me the same vibes, which is cool because, like you said, it's different. It's not everyone's going down this route because it's very risky. It's very risky, especially.
It's risky, and also to use so many earth tones. Like the comic book industry is not sold on a lot of brown per page. But my story takes place in like a steamy alien jungle. So it's just sweaty and there's like mud, and it's just, I love the earth tone vibe of it too. Once they get into the jungle, cause like the foliage is purple and green and psychedelic, but once they're on the run, it's like, it's just mud and sweat, So I just, I feel like, for me, my biggest influence in the art style, and I'm only part of the creative team, but, is the Demon Bear saga from the New Mutants. And I grew up on that, and to me, that's the most intense and beautiful comic illustrations, and nothing worked in that. Everything was scratched. All the borders didn't line up, and it was just so much texture. Your eye could just stare into it forever. And that's how I kind of want this book to be like. It's like the fact that every layer has imperfections and things don't quite jibe means the more your eye looks, you try to see, okay, how did that line up? Okay, who's in front of it? Wait. You're constantly fishing for where's the back of the room? You keep looking, where's this thing end? And so I'm really excited for the way it looks. And I've got a few other projects I'm working on with different writers, and they won't look like this. This is like the zero world looks like this, but other stories look like something else,
Very cool.
So,
yeah, I like that you're putting, that you're putting thought into that, because, that's, I don't think enough people like think about the actual like aesthetic of the art. Are you the artist of the book or the writer?
I have a collaborator who is just an absolute genius, and he's on the West Coast, and so he did all the pencils, and he's doing some of the inks, and I'm doing a lot of finishes. So I take his pencils and I grayscale. I do the deep black, and then I color. So we started off as a line art colorist team, but I've actually ended up doing more than just color on it because he's very busy. He's like a professional artist, graphic designer, and it's a 48-page graphic novel. And the way he inks is so meticulous. It'd be So he
just take forever.
Seriously. And I'm like, so and who knows? Someday down the road, we revisit it, and do a premium edition with all of his inks and let him take a year and do it. But no, I'm really happy for this. It's like, it reminds me of just like a lot of movies that had that quality where stuff's a little bit gritty, colors are a little blown out. It's not like real life. Real life doesn't look like photographs. There's a way that real life is. I guess what I'm trying to say is that you know how a Polaroid, just picture a Polaroid, okay? You look at a Polaroid of a birthday party. You don't see the whole room.
Right.
You just see what was illuminated by whatever light source was there, and it's kind of off, and it's kind of, and this doesn't match, and this isn't there. And that's what our memories are like. You know, our memories are like that. So I kind of feel like Bill Cinquevich and the New Mutants, he got that. You look at the picture, and it doesn't look like real life, but it enters the brain like a memory. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm getting too deep. I'm getting too deep.
No, that's the way it's to be. That's the way it's got to be, man. Like,
no, that's actually like a really good way to describe Bill Sienkiewicz's art. I never thought of it that way, but when you describe it, like that's like, yeah, that is Bill Sienkiewicz. So
yeah, I mean, he draws Cannonball's head, and it looks like a wedge, and the forehead's too wide, and the chin's too narrow, and one eye is out of whack, but like it goes right into the mind. You know, when you're in the receptive state of storytelling, it just becomes a movie in your mind, and that's how I think of Tales of Zero too. It's like a movie in your mind. You know, it doesn't have to look like real life.
What's the name of the artist you just mentioned?
For Bill Sienkiewicz.
Oh, Bill. Okay, Bill. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't get the name, but yeah, you're right. His artwork is absolutely like, it wasn't to my liking growing up. But of course, it's like you grow into it as you get older because you start appreciating the technique and style he put into those books. Where when you're younger, you're kind of like, give me Jimmy Lee, give me
John Byrne,
John Byrne, Tom McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, give me those guys. But yeah, when you get older, you start appreciating the different aesthetics that for sure that artist did, for sure.
There's little moments on a page for me when I know I got it right. It's like when something it's like making the digital glitch. It's like when you can do something with the digital and it suddenly acts a way it wasn't supposed to. Then I step back and I'm like, oh, it's getting good. It's getting good. You know, you want the digital to kind of fight with you, and it's such a fun feeling when you can finally get there. So I'm going to do a little thing on my channel where I'm going to highlight some panels from Demon Bear. Yeah. And then, I mean, my God.
Yeah.
That's Tales of Zero right there, you know? If you think about it, it's like the monster with the claws, and the party of adventurers is like so outmatched by the monster. You know?
Yeah.
The sense of scale, it's just beautiful.
No, you have a great point, because comics should be something totally different, unique from, say, television or film. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of artists today have kind of forgotten that. And mainstream artists, anyway. I know there's a lot of indie creators are starting to kind of like what you're doing, going back to this, to exploring this kind of style, and just making it unique in your own. Like another artist that reminds me that did that was I forget his name, the guy who created Pit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sam Keith.
Right? Yeah, Sam Keith was another one where I was like, wow, this is freaking unique. Like there's no other book or artist like this out here right now. That's like this. That's crazy like that.
That's right.
Yeah. That's why the whole like where her organs argument always bothers me, because it's like art doesn't have that. It can be photorealism is a style, and that's not really my cup of tea, but it is a style, but it's just a style. And part of the fun, like you were saying, of comics is like you can go as exaggerated as you want. It doesn't have to be anatomically correct, as long as it gets across the feeling or whatever aesthetic you're going for.
There you go. Exactly.
That is so.
Look at that. That's what I got anymore. Yeah. Look at Magic. Zoom in on the Magic's hand and then her face. Right. Look at that. Someone would be like, "You didn't even draw her face. It's just like where she's holding the sword, right?" And like, oh, he didn't even draw the face right. It's like, no, my God, dude, it's so good.
He draw the fingers. Where are his fingers?
Yeah, she doesn't even have fingers. It's just like an outline of a hand. Oh my God, I love this style. And of course, I'm no Bill Sienkiewicz, and Matt has his own aesthetic, but it's about this sense of depth, that you see the blacks, but you see the scratches, but you see the things that are clearly representative of human face. But then you see stuff in your eyes like, what am I seeing? Is there a face? Your eye gets pulled into it, looking for things. Yeah.
Do you do you have anybody you can think of that like fits into that Bill Sienkiewicz mold? Because like it really is unique, and like I wouldn't even know what to call this type of art. Like this style.
I would call it cool.
I think the things that that inspired me, I think I'm older than you guys, but the years that I read the most comics in my life was 85, 86, 87. I was 10, 11, 12. Oh my God, look at this. Look at this.
Yeah,
and I read all this. I have all the floppies of this. And I read it a million times when I was 11 years old. And it's like this, and then the first 10 issues of the original Eastman and Laird, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
Check those out. If you've never read those are nothing like what people would imagine. They're so gritty and bloody, and the fight choreography is amazing. And the art is really has so much scratching and texture and hatching, and it's really what's the word? It's tactile. You can feel the brush strokes. You can really feel the brush strokes, So yeah, I read that. I bought those off the stand when they were new, the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I met Eastman and Laird too when I was 11 years old. I got their autograph, Nice. So that was a generation. So yeah, and there's nobody like Cinquevich, but if you look at the first Eastman and Laird run, there were other people even at that time. And Samart Adams does that, where his line work gets really rhythmic and hatchy, and he does do some playing with exaggeration of the face, making the arm too small, the face too close, playing with proportions and perspectives. So Art Adams, he would do one of those X-Men and New Mutants annuals, the summer annuals during those years. Oh my God, those are some of my favorite comics ever, were those summer annuals that Art Adams did, Yeah. Yeah, you see like all the hatching on this. It's just great.
Is this them? Or is this, is them, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should see when they got to their first big fight on the rooftop. It's just insane. It was, like I've said before, maybe on this stream or others, like the thing about the turtles in this first run was that when someone got cut with a sword, it cut across their body and blood spattered on the wall. And for the rest of the fight, they had that cut. Whereas like in Marvel comics, you hit someone with Thor's hammer, they just fall down.
Yeah.
Like, they don't suffer a wound shaped like a hammer. So
you have to remember too that they they're selling books to kids, and that's the downside to it. Of course, you gotta take the good with the bad. Yeah. But like this is the reason why indie comics is such an important factor these days, because we're not bound by that.
Yeah.
And
but even so,
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say that that with this, like, this is just a prime example of what you just said. Like, yeah, it was great to see consistency. Like you said, he got cut, and then you saw the cut for the rest of the book, which is great. Which is great, because that's what's missing, I think, in a lot of comics today, is that there's no consistency when it comes to telling a story or like you said, showing the injury, showing the pain. Because it's I think a lot of artists are lazy, in my opinion. Most artists, not all of them, but most artists, that or writers, are not paying attention, because that's the importance of editors too, because editors can catch stuff like that and say, hey, wait a minute, didn't this guy get cut on page 4? But yet on page 7, there's no slash. What happened in the slash? What happened in the cut?
Yeah, what's another one, Michael? I don't know if you ever saw this one, but since you have this great thing, pull up X-Men 205. That's another one that had this vibe, and this was the first X-Men comic I ever owned, and I read it 1 million times. And this is another one, in this issue, when Wolverine cuts someone, the same thing, black blood flies across the wall and it stays. Like, this was it was a one shot. It wasn't like any other X-Men story.
Was it this one here? This Wolverine?
Oh yeah, that's the one. Can you get some interiors on that?
Oh, I see.
Oh my God, this is a masterpiece. Everybody should own this on a floppy.
Informational Reality asks, do you guys like how DC, Teenage Mutant Turtles, and Mortal Kombat do crossovers sometimes? Yeah, that's actually kind of awesome.
Fun. Yeah,
that is fun. Not all the time, but on occasions, yeah. Let's go for that. All right.
See if you can get this interiors, because this is another one like that.
I read. Is this Barry Windsor Smith?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wow.
Look at the blood. Look at the blood. And look at pouring down his face, and then the same thing when he hits someone in this book, it goes flying. And this was the same year. This was 86. So this and the Turtles, they had that same quality but no other X-Men issue ever looked like this. This was a singular issue that looked like this. It was a one shot. Barry Windsor Smith went to town on it.
Yeah, in 1986, that kind of gets heralded as like the year where like grim and gritty kind of became popular with Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen, but Barry Windsor Smith never gets mentioned in that, but he should, because he was, with Weapon X, he was definitely in league with those guys as far as like bringing like the really gritty violence to comics.
And I'm also a big fan of the long panels too, like these vertical panels. Vertical panels, and because they're so hard to do, because you can't put so much stuff in it. But like Windsor Smith did here, he used it to his advantage, and it looks great. It looks fantastic.
I would tell everybody to own this as a floppy, because even these colors don't even touch the real colors. These trade paperback colors look like ridiculous. You should see the real colors, because Barry Windsor Smith colored it too, so the purples and reds, they bleed into each other. The orange bleeds into the purple. That's what I'm trying to do with Tales of Zero too. It's like people like, get that really long one there. People will be like, oh yeah, well, isn't the first rule? No, those are the trade paperback colors. You got to get the newsprint, get the one with the dots. People are like, well, isn't the first rule of coloring to like color inside the lines? I'm like, no. go read an X-Men comic from '86 and look how they don't. Look how the color goes across the line. Look how the orange is overlapping with the yellow. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I grew up reading, and it makes everything so much more dimensional.
Yeah, and that's like a lost art form, because they were taking advantage of what they I guess you would call it limited their limited options back in the day with the traditional like 4-color printing. But they were using that to like its ultimate extent, which now we're just that's not even a concern for artists, because they can color as with as much depth as they want. It's not an issue, like as far as the printing process goes anymore. But back then, like I said, they were very limited. So a lot of interesting stuff came out of that limitation.
Yeah, it's funny. People grow up and they read the trade, and they trade paperback only, and they think, they back in the day they had flat colors. Wrong. Go look at the floppy. There was nothing flat about the color. There were so many more shades than are given in the trade paperback. It's like if they took a Beethoven symphony and they were like, let's just take away 100 notes because we don't need them. We can do this with 7 notes or something. Like, if I were the artist, if I were Cinquevich, I would just be furious about how the trade paperback looks of the Demon Bear, because it's awful. It's missing all this. It's missing a lot of the scratches. It's missing a lot of the color bleeds that just make it come to life, So, but anyway, trade, right? Those are all trade. But anyway, you should see the real colors. Like, see where it's just blue? That's not just blue. It's blue into white, into gray, and the yellow from Lady Deathstrike bleeds into the blue, and like everything is so alive,
Yeah, it'd be really hard to track down what it really looked like on newsprint, unfortunately, because
I don't think people scan those. I don't think they want to scan those books, because those books are hard to find, probably. So
no, you can get this. Everybody should get this. You can get a back issue of this for like $5. It's so worth it. But anyway, let's talk about Canales, right? Because I think Canales took a lot of heat with the first Ironsides. People laughed and like, oh, his style's cartoony, blah blah blah. So what you're doing is similar. Like, a lot of people want to push back against Canales' style, but I think Canales' style is
it works.
It's wonderful. His faces and his just rhythm and his humor, and Canales is wonderful, man.
Yeah, and I think that's like that's something any artist that has any form of stylization is gonna kind of get a little bit of pushback. But we were definitely like you were saying, you really put in a lot of thought into like the color palette and stuff. Same here. With Abductables, because and Iron Sights, and then the original Abductables, that was in grayscale, but with Abductables 2, Canales is not only drawing, but he's coloring the book himself. And the only note I gave him as far as the color work was because where all of the story, none of the story takes place on Earth. It's all these other planets and these alien worlds. So I just told him, hey, go crazy, because we're in space, we're on alien planets. There's no no reference, so there's no one to tell you what color things should be. And so he's just free to do his own thing and go as crazy as he wants. And I really love how it turned out.
Yeah, I think he's the kind of guy who he's got hands in so many different projects that just the way we talk about 1980, I talk about 1986 now. people will talk about 2018, 2019, 2020, 21 as like Canales did this, Canales did that. You know what I mean? Like he's just got a little bit of himself in so many worlds right now. And that's amazing. That's amazing. And you know, he reminds me also of like Sergio Aragonis, you know, like Gru the Wanderer, you know, or it's like his style was cartoony, but it was so good and incredibly well done that everybody respects him. You know, Stanley was just like, anything Sergio does is brilliant. You know, like he let him do Gru the Wanderer for Marvel, which is like no other Marvel book had that cartoony style.
And I think it really is important to match the artist with the project because you know that kind of cartoony, exaggerated style. If there was one series that art style would be perfect for, it's something like this. The sci-fi action comedy. You know, where we're leaning into that exaggeration and we're leaning into that humor and just totally over the top and. It's just like a match made in heaven as far as the source material and then the artist.
This pen always gets me, man.
It's so good. You know, it's like something about like it reminds me of like Sergio Aragonis. Like he's from Spain as well, right? So and I mean, I think Canales is Basque, so that's a little, you know.
Yeah, but I like that he's able to. It doesn't look like a lot's going on in this panel, like this versus this last panel, but a lot is going on. You got this alien here, and this one here, and then this alien back here with his covering his mouth, and it's great. Like it's fantastic how it's so simple yet it's so effective for the story.
Yeah.
It's great work.
Great faces.
Yeah.
And that's I have to give Canales an extra shout out for that page in particular because the way I had written it, that bottom panel was split up into two panels, but he was smart enough to know that, hey, the joke would work even better if you just put it all in one and just have the abductee walking away. And it definitely sold the joke a lot better. So
it's always important for writers, if you're listening, remember when you're working with the comic book artists, you got to trust your artists, especially when they start suggesting things, and you got to swallow your pride. You got to leave your ego at the door because a lot of the time they can come up with a lot better ideas than what you did when you wrote the script, you know? So always keep the door open. Don't close it because a lot of the time, like for instance, the Good Old Dragon, a lot of the times the artist, Alan Fletcher, he suggested so many things that made the book so much better than what I wrote in the script. And it's because of his input that the book is at the level it is now, and I'm very happy with what he delivered. And just like you're happy with Canales, and like you, Purple Smurf, what's the name of your artist? I keep forgetting his name.
Matt Green.
Like I'm sure he's done things where. What was that?
Like Queen, King and Queen, Matt Queen.
Oh, Matt Queen. Okay, Matt Queen. And I'm sure he's done things where you're like, wow, this is actually a lot better than what I thought, and you went with it because that's what a collaboration is supposed to be. So great work.
Yeah, when I write a script, I storyboard the whole thing. I do all my own layouts, I do everything, but it looks like it was done by, me. So then I give it to Matt Queen, and the page comes back, and I'm like, damn, that's so much better than what I did. And that's what's so exciting about it, when the artist gives it to you back, and it's so much better.
You get excited. You really genuinely get excited. You're like, oh my god, this is so. Like, you can't stop thinking about it. You wish you go faster, but of course you gotta go with the pace of the artist. But then you get the ending satisfaction of like, all right, this is well worth the time.
Yeah, I have another thing coming up, which I'm doing. After Tales of Zero fulfills, it's sort of a caveman book. I'm taking it like it's a Conan the Barbarian, but before that. So just imagine a human and a hunter-gatherer civilization or society earlier than Conan, that kind of thing. It's like pre-barbarian.
Okay.
And I'm working with an artist in Mexico, and man, it's that same thing. I sent him the script and the layout, and then it cuts back, and we're both just like, oh, this is good, man. And he's another one where his inks are so unique. I think I'm gonna make a T-shirt. It's gonna say "Ink Different," because when I see somebody, ink style is unique. Like as soon as you see them, like Canales is like that. You know it. If you just saw the line art. I like that when you can see just the line art. You go, "Oh, is that?" And you know the name. Yeah. It doesn't look like anybody else. So this guy, he's so good. Carlos Rodriguez is his name. His ink looks like woodcut. You know, it looks like it was carved, and it's so beautiful. He did a piece.
Just hearing you say that's like, again, perfect for the material you're dealing with the caveman story.
I wonder if let me see if I can pull up a few and we'll look at it. But he did a book called Otis Stein. I don't know, you can see that. But
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about now. Yeah.
I saw his inks right away, and I was like, you and me are going to work on something. And then the time was right. I said, I've got the script. It's a caveman story. And it
Otis
is so
Stein?
Otis Stein. See if you can pull up a page from that, and then I'll go on my computer and see if I can pull up some pages from this.
This here?
Yeah. See how his
unique style, like I love
halfway
that.
between graffiti and woodcut, you know?
Yeah. Wait, is he on Indiegogo right now, or is?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
Well, Otis Stein is on Indiegogo, so you might be able to find some more pages on there. But,
All right.
I'm going to pull up some pages that he's done for me. We'll give him a shout out. Carlos, he's incredible. And he's super, like, working with him is so pleasant, you know? Super easy to work with. Let me see if I can call up a page in my.
Okay, it's an old one. So
yeah, but if you scroll down, you can it'll show. Yeah, see, yeah, there you go.
Okay, wow, look at that. Wow, that is great.
Yeah, it's just so distinctive. You know, nobody else inks like that. You know, so distinctive.
No Wait, did this mean this goal? Oh yeah, it did.
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing for an artist, you know, because things have never been, you know, well, I guess at least in crowdfunding, they've never been more competitive. But I imagine it's got to be really hard to stand out. But, you know, if you do have your own unique style, that's the best thing you could do as an artist, because, you know, so many artists just like ape each other's styles, and they just want to be carbon copies of each other. But, you know, if you could stand out from the herd, that's only going to bring you good things.
Let me see if I can pull up a page that you did.
Really great. Wow.
Yeah. So let me see. Let me see if I can share my screen for a minute.
Yeah, go for it. And then I'll put it up.
And this is just
great stuff.
This is one page from, let me get to StreamYards. One page, but we've already done half the art for the book. And so
nice.
I get so excited when I like see it, because I'm
excited to see it. I'm curious to know
different than Tales of Zero, you know, but it's my script, so it has, you know, I'm the writer, so it has my sort of rhythm and like pacing, but the art style is going to be very different. Let me see. Sorry, it's going to take me. I'm going to boom right up. Oh, hey, you know, I think you got a new contribution from Michael Derrick. You should check that out. I think you got a new contribution.
Oh, nice.
Right now, it says 76.29, so let's refresh. Oh, look at that. 77.57.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
All right.
It looks like,
come on, guys. If you guys are watching, or you guys are going to watch after the fact, you have 3 days left. Back Abductables 2, Reticulous. I backed it today. I'm looking forward to reading. I got the 2 PDFs tier. So I could find, I don't want to be left behind the story, and I want to know exactly what happens in the story. So I got both the part 1 and part 2 for PDF. So you won't regret it, guys. Well, that's great. That's great news that we got a little bump beyond.
Yeah,
the show.
now we went up 90 to 96%, 151 backers, getting even closer. So thank you to whoever backed. That's awesome.
Oh, I have to admit, it was me.
Thank you.
It's all good.
And guess which one I got?
Commission.
You got it.
Oh, nice! You got the last commission. Very cool.
What I did. I've been thinking about it for a couple of days. I've been thinking, why in the world would I not do that? Right?
Oh, awesome!
You know, it's such a good deal.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that you trust me, you won't be disappointed working with Canales, because he is fun to work with for sure.
That's what I'm thinking of. You can't miss with that.
Oh, was it this one here? This one?
Yeah. That was one of our limited perks. He just picked up the last one, so that's very cool.
Very nice.
Yeah, he'll draw were you thinking? Do you know what you might have him draw yet? Maybe for your caveman story or something else.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Maybe have him do an alternate cover. Maybe an alternate cover. That I have a few things that are coming down the pike. So it depends when he reaches out to me, but definitely you can do a variant cover for the caveman story. All right, I think I'm sharing my screen. You want to call up this page that Carlos did for me? So check this out.
Ooh, look at that.
Nice.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And that's like in the middle of the story. It's in the middle of the story.
Can you zoom in?
Let me see.
That looks great.
And these are my colors. No, is it not zooming in for you? I guess I can't zoom in.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm zooming in on mine, but I'm the colorist on this, and I just feel it's got so much vibe, and it's kind of like in a way it's almost a silent comic, because we're trying to depict these people like in such an early stage of human get together. And it also takes place over generations, so there's 3 different generations. And so it's like you follow them, like the different members of this tribe through 3 generations, and like how power shifts between them. So, but it's all kind of done. It doesn't have a lot of talking in it, and it's just it's pretty rad.
That's smart. Again, leaning into the subject of your plot and really thinking about how to apply the technique to because a caveman story, of course, that makes perfect sense to have minimal dialogue. That's just a smart thing to consider.
And then in Carlos's style, it has that kind of also looks like somewhere between a woodcut and graffiti. So even though like these are cavemen, like sometimes one character is wearing a hoodie, and then sometimes there's like a recliner in the background. So it also has this like post-apocalyptic where you're like, wait, what if this is in the future? Like what if this is in the future when everything like degraded and civilization had to rebuild? Like, so it's just got this great like timelessness to it too.
Awesome.
And like Canales, he does. I think his faces have an incredible like animation to them. Like his expressions are like really stylized, and therefore you don't need a lot of talking to tell the story. So,
absolutely,
which is important for a good quality comic book story. Is you got to have animation animated faces is what I'm trying to say in the stories. So when you have a character feeling heartbreak, it's always best if the reader sees the character. As opposed to a long narration box about how his heart's broken.
It's really funny. I remember hearing like a year and a half ago that DC fired their whole lettering department. And if you look at contemporary, like Marvel comics, like I don't read the House of X, Swords of X, but I sometimes like flip through them at the shop. I've seen the lettering. It uses all one font, and it's all one size, and it's all equally spaced, and it is so lacking in emotion.
No, I haven't.
Really amazingly flat. So it's just like you said. You picture this Jean Grey as like looking, and it says like, "I'm experiencing a tremendous heartbreak right now," in like the most flat and bored-looking text. And then when I see DC comics, they sometimes use the same font. I don't know how could they pick such an emotionless font and then deploy it. You remember? I mean, again, I'm old, but God, I remember that the at least one word in a paragraph was bolded. That you would bold the words, and that would affect the rhythm. And then they would make the word balloons different shapes, and sometimes the word balloon would be like aggressive. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Certain characters would have unique word balloons.
Yes.
And it's definitely a lost art in a way, because I know exactly what you're talking about. It's it's very minimalistic these days, which I don't necessarily like.
Yeah, and you just think, I wonder what I have to read to tell what. Yeah, if you have to read to tell what the character's feeling, like.
I think that's probably tied into because that's actually been a problem with lettering, like Marvel lettering in particular, for quite a while. I think it kind of ties back into their desire to kind of like be more like films rather than comics. They were kind of shying away from the anything that kind of gave it a comic booky feel. They didn't want to do that. That was kind of the era of like the widescreen panels where everything was just minimalistic and kind of made almost to be like a movie storyboard. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the like Tom Orlesky, I think his name was. He was the letterer for the X-Men during the Claremont, Jim Byrne, like all those eras. I mean, his lettering was just as exciting as. I mean, every panel mattered, every word mattered, every little scribbly balloon. He was killing it on all cylinders for the X-Men back in the day, you know. And now it's just like, drag an oval, type, hit return, drag an oval. I mean, you can see how lazy it is. And like when you
it's just like assembly line.
Yeah, like get an intern to do it. Like, of course you fired your whole department, you know, because an intern could do it, but it looks like.
An intern. It looks like an intern did it.
Yeah, it looks like. And I say that like I wish I could, get Eric Weathers as someone who's still really good to do my book. Believe me, but I know that I'm going to do better than some of the stuff I see on the rack right now. Where I don't want to. I'm not criticizing the creative teams on these books. Like it's not my business. But when I hear you fired the whole department, when I hear corporate defunded. Those were good artists that lost their jobs when corporate defunded them. So I'm not coming at the artists. So believe me, I'm not criticizing the artists. But, these corporations, they don't even pay those people a living wage to live in New York City. Right?
Yeah.
So it's brutal. This is the place to be, The indie comics building up, that's the place to be. The top-down model, it's not happening, I don't think. This is comic book lettering. I like that.
Yeah, I brought this up because this is what helped me understand lettering, the art of lettering further. Because before, when I started making comics, I didn't really know that lettering was an art form in itself. I thought it was just like, you just put the bubbles and the letters and you're good. But then when I got this book, and I actually met Richard Starkings at a comic book con, and kind of picked his brain. And he told me that if the reader can read the comic book without, being distracted by the lettering, then you did your job.
That's right.
And it's got to blend in with the artwork. It's got to look like the artist drew it himself.
Yeah, that's right.
And he did. That's when I was, a light bulb went off, and I was like, okay, I understand now. All right, so now I have to when I letter my books, I have to make sure it matches, or at least. I attempt to match it with the artist, but I'm still working on my lettering. But this book here was definitely a book that helped me a lot, and I recommend it to a lot of people who do their own lettering. If you're starting out, this book I highly recommend, because you can learn so much from this little. I think it's only like 60 pages, not even that long.
Yeah,
it's a great book. It's a great book to have.
Awesome. So, what are you doing, Michael, for the next couple days to beat the drum louder? You got any other big guest appearances besides us? I mean, we're the top. I mean, me and Julius. We're at the top. Like, are there any other of the small players you're going to go see?
I think I have. I have another stream planned on Monday. I don't know. I need to double check if I have anything scheduled tomorrow. I know everybody wants me to go, like, obviously it would be really good for like the final 24 hours to have to be on a major stream, but don't have anything lined up yet, so we'll see what happens. But definitely.
Are you gonna do Peter Simetti's open mic night on Monday?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah, you should, because that sometimes you'll get bumps on that show, because Peter's crowd are very good, very loyal, and if you go on there, you'll probably get a few backers from
I tried last week, but it was so booked, I couldn't wait around, because it ended up being a 2.5 hour show, and I had to go to work, unfortunately. So I think I'm gonna try to get in as early as possible to see. But I'm definitely gonna try. But I was able to get on his show for my last campaign, but it hasn't worked out yet for this one. But that's definitely one I want to do for sure. Because you're right, his is one of the bigger shows to promote on.
Yeah, it's really positive. Everybody in there is super positive.
Everyone's great there. I got a few backers from that show when the Ghetto Dragon was live. I'll be on the stream tomorrow night with the 656 Comics guys, so I'll make sure to plug your book there. So
thank you.
Hopefully, because there's that channel is pretty good too. They're very into the cryptology, the monsters and aliens and stuff. Yeah. So I'm sure if I mention it to them, if I mention it to them, they'll plug it, and then hopefully you get a few more backers from that channel.
Oh, very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I feel like with when I was, leading up to the launch day of Tales of Zero, people were like, "Well, aren't you going to have a launch stream?" And I was like, "Listen, I'm nobody. Nobody knows who I am. We're talking a launch stream with me."
Said and done.
So it's like, so what I have to do is I have to just get a base hit. I just have to hit the ball, get to first base, and fulfill. And then maybe people, when they read Tales of Zero, they're like, "Oh, that was good," But now I have to get there on my own steam. Nobody's going to help me do this. And I feel like Julius and others of us who are just in our first at bat.
Yeah,
that's actually a good thing to get there on your own for your own hustle, even if it's a small first hit. It's a hit, and you did it. You didn't have someone else do it.
I got on base. That's what.
Yeah, that's huge, man. And then when 100 people or 50 people or 60 people actually know your stuff is good, they'll tell somebody.
Yeah.
Then your next one, you get a bump and you get a bump. But I don't think there's anything wrong with slow growth and
I think the streams that you've been doing, the drawing streams that you've been doing have been working out great. I think that's the best step forward. What you're doing.
It's very positive. I try to be if you come on my show, we're not trashing other creators. We're not trashing other hashtags. It's show me how passionate you are about what you're doing. Get me excited about it. And if you can get me excited, you can get anybody excited about it. That's what it should all be about. We should be just, because it's the days of fighting, 2018 and 2019, that's in the past now. It's all ours now. The road belongs to us. We have to just drive. Just drive. This is the time to build and to make allies.
Absolutely.
The people. Yeah, you go, Michael.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's talking to you guys about all this old school art and style and stuff. I feel like these hardcore comic book conversations don't really happen, unfortunately, on a lot of streams because obviously, like you said, there's the drama aspect, which that works for some people, probably not for most of us. And then other things they'll talk about anything but comics, and I that's not me calling out anybody, but I think that is kind of a outgrowth of because there's this whole side of CG which is former pros who worked at Marvel and DC for years, and then now they're doing crowdfunding. The last thing they probably want to talk about is comic books because they've been doing it for 20 years, 20, 30 years. But guys like us who are still up and coming, we still got that passion. We love talking about the art form, and I feel like our perspective is probably a little different. So that might be something to lean into, and for something that people don't really hear as much on CG related shows.
Yeah, no, you're right, absolutely right. Not a lot of people I tend to focus on the love of the medium because I think the comic book medium is the most unique platform to tell a story. And all you need is a good writer, and a good artist, and a good, depending also on the team of an inker or a colorist. And if you have a good, head on your shoulders, you can pick out a good team and you can create a great book. And not only a great book, but also a very unique story. Your abductable story is very unique. That's cool. That's not something you would see on a TV show. And then also Purple Smurf, your book too. That's a fantastic concept, and only in comics can you do something like that because you can. No one's stopping you. No one's telling you, "Oh, you can't do that." No one's gonna like that. Well, it's you. How do you know? How do you know no one's gonna like that? Who doesn't love Indiana Jones? Who doesn't love aliens? So why not go for it?
Yeah, and we can do things, with storytelling, like Tales of Zero. When you read it, it's there's some stuff in there that when it's all over and you put it down, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Then you're like, I need to go read that again. I threw some things in there, you plant seeds early on, and then in the end, you kind of just take a really hard left. And then the reader's like, okay, wait. Knowing what I know now, I need to go back and read it again to decide. Because the thing is, Zero is the storyteller. So every issue starts with hey, did I ever tell you about the time I, and then he tells you the story. But Zero is kind of a con artist. So when he tells you the story, he's telling you the way that he would like you to believe it happened, right? So that's the fun part about it, is you leave those breadcrumbs for the reader to see, oh, this part isn't maybe how it really happened. This is the way that Zero wants to tell you it happened, you know. And
is this Zero right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you see how he's missing his hand. So like,
yeah.
Issue 1 is like, hey, I bet you're wondering how I lost this hand, and that's the setup for Issue 1. The whole story, cool. How he lost his hand. But when it's all over, you're left with questions, and like, and I wrote it in a way that then when you go back, you're like, oh, okay, if he lied about that, then that means this whole thing didn't say it the way it, you know, and that's the fun part about it. So it's like, again, that in a TV show or a movie, it's like you can't quite do that. You can't quite like have that rereadability. I mean, you can watch it many times, but usually like the twist only works once, right? But I mean, growing up for me, I read my favorite comics 100 times. You know, not just I read them so much. They were more rereadable than shows were watchable, at least for me.
Yeah.
Then we had
part of it was because the artwork. You know, you would love for me. I don't know about everyone else, but I used to. The reason why I would reread books was A, the story was great, but B is because I love looking at the artwork. I love looking at the panel sequentials that the artist did, and I will study it. Like one of my favorite comic book artists, he passed away years ago, was Edwin Volkovic, who drew The Human Target with I think his name was Peter Milligan back in '99.
Oh yeah,
and his like that was when I picked up that book for the first time. It was like freaking you know, the heavens opening up for me, and I was like, dude, this guy gets it. This is the artist this is the style I like. I like this style right here. And
you gotta, when this show is over, like post a link to some of the images from that issue that grabbed you. You know what I mean?
I'll do it right now. Shoot.
So that when this stream is over, people, if they want to watch the stream, they can have those, because you got my attention now. I want to see those. I don't want to see that. And you know what you were saying, Michael, about like we're excited about comic books, right? Maybe someone has been doing this for 20 years. It's not, but they have a different growth edge. You know, everyone has a growth edge. Our growth edge is to become self-publishers, right?
Yeah, I think that's a point that a lot of people miss, because I get it to a certain extent. Like, you know, there could be, you know, some professional jealousy and bitterness towards like the really like big like 6-figure campaigns, but again, people got to realize like these are guys that have worked you know, at Marvel and DC for years. They made their name, so it's really unfair to compare what they're doing to guys who are just releasing their first comic. Like, and again, that's the great thing about, you know, Comicsgate and crowdfunding is that, you know, it's everybody, you know, there's a wide range of you know, creators and ideas, and it's just like its whole little like mini industry within the larger comic industry. And you know, I think that's great.
Yeah, I think those 6-figure campaigns, man, they open the door, man. I don't begrudge anyone's success. I mean, if I sold my comic and bought a new house and a new car, I would hope people would be happy for me, because that's my dream becoming a reality. So the success of others should inspire you, you know. But again, I'm a first-time Smurf no one's heard of. Oh, gee, I'm hoping I can get $700 for let alone 7,000 or 70,000. So, you know, you have to have a realistic view of where you're at and how far you're going to reach this time, and then next time reach a little farther. Next time reach a little farther and grow. You know,
and that's how you kind of you never want to name names, but you see people like come up who you can tell they're just like, oh, that guy he got rich. So this is like a get rich quick scheme. I could just release a campaign. It's like, no, like you gotta actually like want to make a comic. You gotta have to,
There's no shortcut. So this is no shortcut, because I love this. This is so cool.
This is the first page of the series. So the first panel, you know, here's of course there's it's in French, but it's the narration of who the story is about, and it's an assassin who's a mother who has a family. And it was just mainly how he told the story, like for instance this sequence here, you know, see if I can zoom in further so you guys can see.
Oh, this is so good. This is what I'm talking about. There's so many layers, and what's the word I'm looking for? There's so many planes. That's what it is. There's so many planes. Like some of the piece of glass is close to your face, and then the furniture, but then she's in the doorway, but then there's a door behind the doorway. It has at least 5 planes, you know? Yeah,
and that's what Edwin Volkovic he was getting to becoming like one of the greats, but then he passed away of cancer. I think in 2002. I think he died of cancer. So this was like his big breakthrough, because he drew a few issues of Star Wars for Dark Horse Comics in the mid 90s, and I think he did a few Grendel tales for Dark Horse as well. So this was his big like his first big like major DC Vertigo comic line, and that was his last book. That was the last book he made.
I'm gonna look at this. This is super good, super cool.
But yeah, I mean, look at that. Look at the amount of detail on that, and showing you instead of telling you what's going on.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's great.
That's another, that's another strength of the comic book medium, is that, like, you know, with film, I don't know how many people like will actually like pause a movie to like examine the reel and like see. But with a comic, because it's like the image is frozen on the page, you can actually just sit there and like look at all the details that they add, and you know, you can have all like the hidden meanings and like the layers, like you said.
Yeah.
And, you know, you pack so much onto the page, and it gives it so much more rereadability.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now this is cool. I want to read this whole series now. You sold me on this artist. 100%.
Yeah. You mentioned we should buy the floppy of the that Wolverine. What was it, X-Men 201?
205. Yeah.
205.
Everybody should own it.
So I recommend you find the floppies for Human Target. It's only 4 issues.
I'll take the challenge.
Yeah, it's a great series. Very forgotten, but fantastic series.
It looks amazing. Yeah, I mean, I got that X-Men 205. You know, I grew up in a rural, very, very small town, and so yeah, that was sold in a tiny store in my tiny town for 75 cents. You know, like, and yet to me, it's a masterpiece. Like, it is so powerful. So that's another thing comics do, is they every now and then, like, the stars align and one issue becomes so special, right? Mm-hmm. But really, comics were always meant to be like a kind of ephemera, you know, kind of read it and toss it, you know, like it wasn't meant to be this cherished, long-lived art form. And that's kind of the magic of it too, is it on one hand, it's ephemeral, and on the other hand, every now and then the stars align and it becomes something so permanent and you know, on a whole other level of meaning. So it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I kind of miss that. You know, obviously the standards are a little different with crowdfunding, but like I kind of miss that kind of almost disposability aspect. Like you know, you would just pick up like a newsprint comic that was just so cheap, but then like you said, you know, it's just kind of cheap, almost like it was like an outgrowth of like the Pulp Fiction that came before it. But you know, just, you know, disposable, but not in a negative way. Just like, hey, this is, you know, like some fun entertainment. But then, like I said, every now and then there'd be like a gem in there that would really stand the test of time.
That's right. I mean, Alterna is doing that. If you ever see Alterna, you know, on the rack in the store, it's $1.99.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the newsprint. Yeah, they're bringing back newsprint, which is awesome.
$1.99, like,
yeah,
let me buy 3, you know, as opposed to like, let me buy 1.
Alternative. How many pages is it? I never picked up an Alternative book, so is it 22 pages?
Yeah, they're full comics.
Wow.
And his cover price.
If I was running the show at Marvel and DC, that would be one of my editorial oversights. Would go back to newsprint, keep things cheaper. You know, because again, if the stories are worth, you know, if they do stand the test of time, you can always release those amazing collected editions with all the bells and whistles. But you know, I think you know, the comics that you get at the you know, the floppy comics at the local comic store, those should be as accessible as possible. The price should be as low as possible. And you know, who doesn't love newsprint? I mean, it's yeah.
They did recently.
I did a stream with Ryan Wynn, and he told me that you know, he was hesitant to do paper, the newsprint, but I guess Peter told him that it works really well with the digital files. Like it's like somehow kind of takes it kind of reverts it back almost. It's weird. It's weird how the digital files do that, and they make it look like it's like you painted it by hand, when in reality you use Photoshop to color it. But the newsprint just gives it that feel, which is
I saw it.
Which is interesting. Actually,
what the book was called, was it Death Sworn or something like that? Not Death Sworn. That's a UK book, but it's one of those ones. Blood Realm. I think it's called Blood Realm.
Oh yeah.
I picked it up on the stand and I started going through it. And I was like, oh, the colors were amazing. It was like the digital colors newsprint. I was like, oh, it was good. It had
That's one where it's like black and white with like red inserts, right?
It had that feeling. So yeah, you're right. You know, digital colors, they hit real paper, they become real color again. You know, funny thing about that. So yeah, you know, I was one series right now that's just finishing. That I would really recommend to anybody is The Green Lantern. You know,
Liam Sharp, right?
Liam Sharp, and
I heard about that. Yeah, that I saw. I used to follow him on Twitter, and he used to post the pages on his Twitter feed, and I'd be like, "What the hell, dude? This I didn't know I didn't know he was drawing for DC at the time. So I was like, this guy should be drawing for DC Comics."
So good. So he's about to. The new one that comes out will be the last one. There's 24 issues, and it's 24. It is so worth it. When I pick up that at the store, I feel like as excited as I did as a kid. Like that book is exciting, you know.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's done this his whole career, but like I know specifically for the Green Lantern, he's drawing the pages on like oversized, like even bigger than 11 by 17, which is the normal physical page size that artists draw at. So he's drawing even on an even bigger Bristol board, which gives the pages even more detail than normal, which is very, very cool and unique.
And he's playing with so many styles, like because Green Lantern has covered so many decades. So in one issue, they'll explore like the 70s, and in another issue, it'll be like the 50s, and he'll change his style. Oh yeah, this page. Oh, holy cow. This page is amazing. And again, you zoom in and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
That is absolutely incredible. Yeah. And that's, man, as much crap as we give Marvel and DC these days, and rightfully so, if they were doing their job right, this would be the standard. I mean, that's what it used to be was, because Marvel and DC were these big companies, they could afford top tier A plus, top of the line artists and writers to create these high budget in terms of comic books projects like this. This would be, par for the course. And then, but now it's even more rare to see stuff like this. But I'm glad that, even though it is more rare, every now and then you'll get a gem come out of DC and Marvel.
This one is a winner, and it's a total winner. The series.
And it's Grant Morrison wrote it, right?
Yeah, so it's convoluted. Yep. Like you have to read it 5 times to have a clue what's going on. And every ending he goes, but then like the last page of every issue is, but then you didn't know Adam Strange was going to show up, Zam, and then the next he like changes genre every episode.
That's very Grant Morrison, because he loves those old school Silver Age comics, and he's really leaning into.
He even messed with the run up. He told everybody in all the press releases, he's like, "I'm just bringing it back to the roots. It's going to be Green Lantern Space Cop. It's going to be a procedural police story in space. I'm getting rid of all the magic and the mysticism." And everyone's like, "Cool, Grant Morrison," and that was a complete lie. And by the third, he's like, "Green Lantern arrests God." So like even messing with people, it's like it's so out there. There's no limit to where his imagination goes in this. It is so fun. Like he just takes it wherever. And the style changes from issue to issue. It's pop art.
It's ridiculous. Oh my god.
So I really and again,
there you go with the we were talking about they don't do the unique lettering anymore. This is a book that does, because it gives the alien character the a rectangular balloon with the giant letters. That's great. It's great stuff.
This right here is a book that it gets me as excited as I was when I was a kid when I pick up a new issue. It is really good on every level.
Yeah, I knew about this.
I could pick that up then.
Yeah, sadly, I don't really feel compelled to go to my local comic shop that much these days. I knew about the Green Lantern. That's definitely something, once it's all said and done, I'll probably pick up the collected edition. But man, now you got me wanting to just go and get the floppy right now.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
I see it on the dollar bin. You can find these.
Oh, man.
I'm definitely going to get them for sure.
Oh, I see them in the dollar bin, and I'm like, oh, man. And even the variant covers I see in the dollar bin. So you can still grab it in the floppy at the store, going back to even the first issue. I still see number 1s on the shelf, and that's already 2 years ago. So
and
yeah,
that's my philosophy as far as like, because I know a lot of people are just like, Marvel and DC are dead to me, boycott them, and I totally understand where they're coming from. But to me, boycott is one thing, but it's all about the boycott. If you got to reward them for good behavior. So if they are putting out stuff like this, vote with your wallet, and
agree.
Hopefully they'll get the hand like, okay, more of this, less of the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really an amazing series, and they did a summer one. It was called Black Star, and it was like the normal Green Lantern went on break, so they did a 4-issue mini called Black Star, and that was also really good. Liam wasn't the artist, but the artist picked up a lot of the cues of his style, and that one went under the radar completely. But Grant Morrison, he even in that Black Star series, he said some things that I think were very about present day.
Oh, interesting.
That were pretty astute and on point, and not the social commentary you're used to hearing, like different views, different questioning of assumptions, like questioning of assumptions in a way that I thought was really, really good. So yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, like you say, when it's good, we should be supporting. We should want it's even with the 3 Jokers, that Jason Fabok and everything. Like when the mainstream has a hit, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
When it sells 100,000, 200, that's good. We want a healthy industry. We want comics to be thriving, right? We just want to be a part of it thriving.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, when something connects with readers and it sells, that's good news for everybody.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, back to my drawing show. Yeah, I thought about my drawing show as this place where it's sort of like what we're doing here. It's like I think of it as like the digital campfire. You're just sitting around talking. That's all it is. And but we could be in different time zones, different parts of the country. But what do we all have in common? We all like explosions and people chasing and breaking through walls and like all the things that comics do. So that's part of the reason I make my show a drawing show, because when people are sitting around drawing like explosions and bikes that shoot lasers and all this wacky stuff that we grew up with, like a lot of defenses and walls come down. I might be like this and you might be like that, but once we're both sitting around drawing explosions, like we connect with that nerd that's in all of us, right? It's like, so I have people who are CG adjacent, non-CG. I feel like about a year and a half ago I made a distinction. The wall doesn't exist CG, non-CG. The wall exists like this: haters, creators. That's the wall.
Right. I like that.
It's the wall. So if you're just hating and tearing down, that's your thing. That's fine. You go do that. But if you're trying to make your dream real, the way you are, Michael, then I want to talk to you. I want to talk to people that are building their dream. And when you connect with people on that level, the other stuff kind of fades away.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the negative labels that have been put on CG, those things don't matter either, because the people within CG that are doing that work, building their dream, they're cool people, and it as soon as you talk to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people within CG who inspired me 3 years ago still do. They still inspire me. So it wasn't about the hashtag, right? It was about them making their dream a reality. You know what I mean? And so I think that's what we all got to lean with that, and then inspire others. And it can grow, like Zach that famously said, how small do you want this to be?
Yeah. Right? And it's important not to make the same mistakes that the mainstream made, where they alienated so many people, and they drew these battle lines through from their ideology, and if nothing else, regardless of everybody, everybody's got opinions, everybody's got allegiances and this and that, but if nothing else, the comics should be able to unite us, and like you said, we should be able to put everything else aside and just be able to talk about our love of comics.
Yeah,
that's what brought us here to begin with.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm nobody. I don't have to prove anything. Nobody. I'm just a nobody, so I can have that policy. Remember the artist Elliot Fernandez?
Yeah.
What a great artist, right? Amazing artist. You love to watch him draw, on Drawn and Quartered and stuff like that. He's still on Drawn and Quartered sometimes, but he told a story, and it really stayed with me. And I've borrowed part of his story for some of my thinking. He said there was a donut shop, and he and his friends used to go to the donut shop after school. And then one time, he and his friends were like play fighting and just messing around, and the donut shop guy like came down really hard on them. And he's like, well, we come here all the time. He's like, listen, I'm here to sell donuts. Like, this needs to be a place where everybody feels they can come in and get a donut. I'm glad to sell to you, but everybody needs to feel they can walk in here. And I feel like that's some of the stuff that goes on. It's like, we forget we're here to sell to the customer. And if our behavior is not, we don't want to.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Everybody should look into what we're doing and be like, oh, that's cool. I want to go find out about that. So if there's so much infighting, the customer looks in the donut shop and goes, nah. Like you look in the donut shop and these kids fighting, you're going to move on and get your donut somewhere else. So our leading edge needs to be the creativity and the enthusiasm, because that's going to bring the customers, right? That's all I'm trying to say. The leading edge, the edge we put forward needs to be that passion, the enthusiasm, the creativity, because that's what's going to bring customers to us, So anyway, that's my soapbox. I made a video. You can see it on my YouTube channel. It's called, it's inspired by Elliot Fernandez's story, but I took it my own way. It's about the sandwich shop. So I made mine a sandwich shop, but it tells a similar story. Just like, you can't let those divisions mess with you. You're here to sell the sandwiches, the best sandwich you can, to the most sandwich fans.
Right.
And anything that takes you off that goal, why are you giving energy to that?
That's what always appealed to me about Alterna Comics, back in the day, because, Peter Simeti has always been very staunch in saying, look, the comics are for everybody. I don't care what your personal beliefs are. I don't care about anything other than if you like comics and you want to buy our comics, then, we're not going to do what the big two does and disown you and block you and, call you names and like all this terrible stuff that they've been doing for years. That always appealed to me from Alterna, because they were one of the first indie companies to actually take that stance, which is, it's sad that had to even be a stance, because that should just be the norm. But
everything that people threw at him, it was so uncalled, and he took terrible. So much class,
Yeah. Yeah, really that just shows how toxic the industry had been at that point, that, he got any blowback for that is insane. But, I like to think things have kind of calmed down a bit in recent months. It seems like maybe, fingers crossed that, the worst of it's over, like as far as the culture war. I mean, the culture war still rages on, but it's not, it's certainly changed. We'll put it that way. It's not as crazy as it was back in 2018.
I think it's changed a little bit because, unfortunately, the people on the side of Marvel and DC are seeing the unemployment line getting closer and closer.
It's so sad.
And they're seeing the indie creator, kind of going up, higher and higher, because we've took matters into our own hands. This is Indigo is this crowdfunding platform. Let's use this to our advantage. And a lot of people have made their dreams a reality with crowdfunding. I certainly have. You have, and I'm sure Purple Smurf and everyone else who has done their book, who's had this idea for a book, and they got their funding, and so it's the future's looking bright for us. So I think that's why it's calmed down, because they're kind of like they don't want to admit it, but I think defeat is near.
Yeah.
So they burned so many bridges. It's kind of like, no crap. Now we gotta we might have to start selling again to these people we called, bigots and racist and all that stuff. And it's like, we don't forget that kind of stuff,
I know it's uncalled for, even going back to, I when you've lived through it and then you try to replay it and you think, how could this have ever even been real? Like the idea that if you didn't like Star Wars, The Last Jedi, a movie,
right,
that you hate women.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, what? Like that kind of logic that was thrown at this whole thing,
right?
When that's not logic at all. That's not logic. That's some sort of.
It's funny because the comic book industry was like on the cutting edge of all this, like all that kind of that crazy mentality. Like I didn't even know like what an SJW was until I saw like what they were doing in comics.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
And it's funny because like I feel like I said, comics was ahead of the curve. Like they were dealing with that stuff before other industries, and like now you see it's really getting bad as far as like the film industry goes. But it's like, man, comics, we've been dealing with this crap for years, and I feel like we're almost at the other side of it. whereas other industries are just now getting they're seeing it for themselves, stuff that we've been dealing with. So
yeah, it's strange. My side on that, because I never understood. My thinking, I don't even think in terms of SJW. I understand what it means, and you can see the behavior, especially when it comes from corporate down. But to me, it always came down to this: like, if a corporation like Disney that has more money and resources than probably half the nations on the earth, you know what I mean? We're talking about a corporation with more money and resources than half of the nations on the earth, and they're going to say, if you didn't like our product, bam. The idea of a corporation disparaging everyday people, that gets me mad, all right? That's all it is to get my hackles up, because actually it's our purview to dislike your movie or like your movie. That's okay.
Yeah, and I wonder...
We watch movies, and it's our choice to say we didn't like this one, but we did like this one. But once it got to be like not liking a movie was a mark of your, like, some sort of like character bias or thing, that really caused me to stop and look around and say, what's really happening here? Corporations are going to pick and choose who has these things based on what products they don't like. No. That's not going to fly with me at all. You know, people should be able to choose. I mean, I don't like a movie.
Yeah, that's insanity.
It's insanity. You know?
You're a supremacist, Purple Smurf. You're a supremacist.
Yeah, obviously. You know, but it's like, even my Purple Smurf, like, you know, nickname is sort of just like, you know, be the one person who's different, right?
Yeah.
The whole idea of like the corporations, it's like Disney's like, we all feel this way. We all feel that this is this. Don't you agree, Disney Corporation? When did it become a thing to agree with a corporation? When did that become like the stance? You know, that like, oh, Disney says I have to think this way, I better hurry up and think this way. It's like, wrong. When a corporation tells me to think one way, I go the other way.
Well, that's what I'm hoping that comes out of all this, is like a stronger, like, anti-authority kind of like rebellious, hopefully like a more rebellious nature from artists who really, you know, look at this stuff, and like, I hope like a whole new movement of like radical, like badass, like anti-establishment art comes out of it. I think it will, because the more that they clamp down and the more that they tell us what to think, I think some really cool art's going to come out of that.
Yeah, I think that's happening, and that's part of my story. I think being told that, you know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or whatever, like, that motivated me. I was like, you know what, I could write a better story than that. Instead of being mad, I'm going to get to work writing my story, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. There is a positive upswing to that, you know, where people want to show what everyday people can do. You know, when the corporations start giving us this garbage and then saying, you know, eat this, it's good. And we're like, no, it isn't good. You know, well, maybe we need to show them that we can make something good, you know?
Yeah, I've been listening to Rob Liefeld's podcast, Rob Observations. I don't know if you guys heard of that podcast or not.
It looks like it's really good.
Oh, it's fantastic. And there's one podcast where he talked about Heroes Reborn, now how him and Jim Lee got involved with that. But he says something very interesting that actually that was very resonating for me. That resonated for me was he talked about when he decided to leave Marvel and go for the Image route, you know, the independent route. And when he got his agent, when he found the success of Youngblood and all the other Image books that pretty much sold like millions of copies nationwide, his agent asked him, do you want to be George Lucas or do you want to be Steven Spielberg? And Robert Liefeld was like, what are you talking about? Aren't they the same, like doing the same things? Or no. George Lucas pays for everything himself, and he gets bank loans, and he puts everything out of pocket. He puts things up to put into his movie. So if his movies fail, he fails. Spielberg gets people to throw money at him, and that's the difference. Do you want to be Steven Spielberg or do you want to be George Lucas? And I think a lot of people now with the indie movement, we have an opportunity to be George Lucas. And I prefer to be George Lucas because I would prefer to own my own IP and keep it. And if, you know, production companies or what have you come knocking on the door, then I'm not going to sell it to you. I'll license it to you, but I'm not going to sell it to you.
That's right.
So let's cut a deal. Let's cut this deal so that way we could both benefit and whatnot. But of course, selling it, doesn't wrong with selling it either. If you want to sell it, then by all means, more power to you. Mm-hmm. But it's just a matter of knowing what you want to do. Do you want to be George Lucas or do you want to be Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, that's a great point.
And it was a great analogy. I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. And I didn't know George Lucas put up his house and his business to make the prequels because that's what he did.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and he totally worked outside the studio system when he made the prequels. He just did it all with his own.
Yeah, wow. That's that makes me like him even more. That's very cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah, same here. I was like, wow, I kind of respect him now. I had no idea he did that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So it's indie. Look, the indie scene is going to grow. It's going to get more competitive, and we're in the game now, so we've got a little bit of a head start, and because it's gonna be a huge influx, I think, in the next few years of all these ex pros from Marvel and DC, kind of looking around, kind of like going, hey, what's going on over here? Crowdfunding, huh? What is this? Well, let's see what we can do here, and then they're gonna flood it. So it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. I like the word indie scene, like as a word, as a catchphrase, because it is. There's all kinds of people here. I'm this, you're that, I'm this, I'm in this faction, I'm in this faction. But everything comes out in the wash with: did you put something in front of a reader, and did they get excited?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the measure. Everything else falls away at that moment. So if the reader got it and was like, "Oh," then you won. You won. It didn't matter what your label was, or who you were friends with, or who you were feuding with. Because feuds, and they go on, and it's like, and then 4 months later, those people who were feuding, now they're enemies with each other, and you're like, but what about the book, man? What about the book? So it's like, I just feel like, it's like, find your reader. That's it. Find your readers, and then sell to them, and then they tell their friends, and just keep repeating that process. And your only competition is yourself,
Right.
But luckily, the people that have built this little indie scene in the last 3 years, it's like we've all been watching, we've all been participating, and I'm grateful to all those people who had to smash things up a little bit. Maybe they have to smash things up a little bit to get this process started, but that doesn't mean the only way to get where you're going is to smash things up. I think the people that there's people like Julius, and I could name 10 or 12 names of people who are maybe on their first cycle of getting a book before people in this fall and this early spring. Where are any of these people going to be in 3 years? That's exciting to me. People again now who are like small fish, like we could be healthy medium fish. None of us needs to be eating up like we're not. I don't need to eat up the big guys. But if I find my readers and I connect with my readers, and we keep growing, my readers and me at the same speed and expanding together, then I'm a success in my own world. You know what I mean? That's really all it is. Because you go to the LCS and look how many things are still on the shelf 2 years later. Well, I'm glad you had your book published, but nobody bought it.
Yeah, and that's important to remember, is everybody has their own path, and that's another thing I love about crowdfunding is back in the day the big thing was, well, how do you break into the industry? But now that's kind of like a moot point, because you can bypass the companies altogether and just go straight to sell directly to an audience and build your own audience. So there's never, despite all the craziness, there's never, from my perspective, there's never been a better time to be an independent creator starting out.
Absolutely.
100% agree. 100% agree. And it's like, there's why we don't need the industry. You know how many backflips and things you'd have to do to get your foot in the door?
Yeah.
But by the time you were there, you're already kind of compromised. So here you can have your own IP, your own point of view, and if you connect with the reader and that synergy develops, you'll grow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as real as it gets. And that's another thing, like what you're saying about Michael about crowdfunding, is that there's a real feedback loop with real human beings. So it's like the Marvel numbers, like, oh, we sold 70,000 copies of this, but then nobody actually bought them. You shipped them to the store.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
bought them. And it's like, so here there's no faking crowdfunding.
Yeah, there's no fighting the numbers. Right. It's all out in the open.
If I didn't connect with the reader, and then that's that. And that's like I said on my first Tales of Zero. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to flop on this one, but that's okay. I can live with that. You know, I can take the embarrassment, you know, and maybe my next one, maybe the Caveman book will be the one, you know, maybe I reached too far. But now I'm only 3 days in and I'm almost there. I'm $100 away after 3 days.
Yeah, and you have 13 people who purchase your book. And that's 13 readers.
Oh, you know, I mean, I think the number of readers will grow and grow, but just to even hit the target, you know, in the first 3 or 4 days, that'll feel great. And then I have 60 days to show it to people and be like, look, here's a new inked page. Look, here's a new this. Look, here's a new this, and get people excited about the construction process along with me. Be like, look, here's this, and people see it come together, and then they want to be a part of it. So yeah, you have to make people want to be a part of you and what you're doing. You know, so positive and passionate, and welcome everybody. You know, we don't have to fight anymore. We just got to build it. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, only you.
Only you yourself can be your liberator. And Wilhelm Reich once wrote, and I 100% agree, and it's true. It's true. Only you can be. As you can see in the image here, the guy's tying himself up.
Yeah, totally.
So no one else is doing it but him. So
well, you remember, and not to name names, but you remember, like you 2 or 2.5 years ago, there was this sense that somebody thought they could just come in and have a 6-figure campaign, and they were mad when it didn't happen. And it's like,
I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, what were you expecting?
That one, man. It doesn't go that way, right? You got to be realistic.
As far as get rich quick schemes, I'd say making comics is probably the worst choice you can make.
Absolutely.
I mean, And the funny thing, if you want to talk about EVS, is EVS, he gave people so much free entertainment day after day after day after day before he launched Cyberfrog.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was a commentator. His videos were funny. He had art videos. He had critique videos. He had this, and all that was free, you know? So when he finally launched, he's like, would you give me $25? People are like, yeah, man.
Right, yeah. And on top of that, he already had his fan base too.
And he had a catalog going back 20 years. Yeah, not everybody's going to be able to pull that off.
Right, yeah. And not only that, fulfill it too, because it took him, I think it took him 2 years to fulfill that campaign, right?
Yeah, it was a big job. So, I mean, you can't, and good for him that he did it, you know? Great for him that he did it.
Yeah, he was one of the only ones, I think, because I think, if I remember correctly, Rob Liefeld also, didn't he launch a Kickstarter for...
I think he has Brigade.
And then nothing came from it, so it's kind of like, uh-oh.
Yeah, I think he launched the same project on Indiegogo, and it's like, man, I would totally back that if I thought there was any chance I would ever get it. Because unfortunately, he wasn't that great on fulfilling, from what I've heard. A lot of people. Yeah,
a lot of people are upset about him not fulfilling, which is that's the biggest obstacle that I think the indie creators are going to have to face going forward is fulfillment.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to raise the money. It's one thing to meet your goal. It's another thing to, hey, you raised $100,000 on your book. That's great. But when you say that the estimated delivery time is on this date, the people who contributed money to you are going to be expecting that at that date.
Yeah, that's right.
So you better either keep them updated or be real, because if you're not, then they're going to know, oh, you stole my money. Like that one guy, was it Critias and Red Rooster?
Yeah.
That was just unbelievable. I was like, I can't believe this guy actually, like, dude, what are you thinking, man? You had something that so many people would kill for, and you just like, oh, I'm not gonna do it, because it didn't work out the way I planned. It's like,
dude. That's hard.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's it. There's going to be everything's a lesson learned. You don't want to. You can learn from other people's mistakes. And you can try to avoid those mistakes in your own path. I'm thinking about having an episode of my show in a couple weeks where I want to get people who are like one campaign completed and pick their brains about what I wish I knew.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Wouldn't that be a good show? Just like what I wish I knew. Now that I've done one, now I'm like, oh, okay, this was a key concept that I missed the first time out. Well, I'm going to do that for a show coming up. Oh, yeah, and my show this Tuesday, I'm going to have Joe Catapano with Star Circuit. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, that's a great-looking book, man.
Like motorcycle, motorcycle racing.
Yeah.
and his art is wonderful. His art is super cool, and the colors are so rad. So
is he the artist of that book too, or is he the writer? Oh,
No,
he's the artist as well.
Him and Zaid Studios. I think they're like lifelong amigos, and
Okay.
it's confusing because you have Zaid Comics, Magic Cop and Lost Pages, but then there's Zaid Studios, ZADE, and he is an incredible artist. I mean, I was blown away by. He's working.
It looks
right
fantastic.
now. It's like he can't. So like Zaid, Zaid is working on the video game, but his art is so insane. And then Catapano is working on Star Circuit, and they're like, I think they're tight. So, they're a new force coming up. It's just there's a lot of talent I think coming up, and I'd like to imagine where all those people will be 3 years from now. If we just hold the line and don't shooting at each other. That's the whole point. Like, where the tide and the momentum was 2 years ago, and then it all got sideways when people start sniping each other.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. I think it's gonna happen again. It's inevitable. Right now, everyone's kind of like a Ronin samurai at the moment, and at some point, I think they're all gonna start conglomerating again to to their own like-minded individuals, and then they're gonna start creating probably studios or production, comic book production, small little presses, and release books every so often and help each other out, because that's what Image did. They just got together, they put all their resources together, and that's how they kept Image alive. Was they whatever money they made from their books, they put a little bit, I think it was like 2 or 3% into the collective, so that way the machine can keep on rolling out and producing the art and the books. So I think that's going to happen, and I think that Zaid Comics, that whole synergy that's going on right there with Zaid and that, I think that's the beginning of it, the beginning stages of that, and I think that's what's going to lead to down the line. Yeah, which I hope it does, because I think that's needed.
I could even picture myself I could picture myself someday down having an imprint, and just having 2 or 3 titles under that banner. Yeah, I mean, that'd be fun. People know when like, oh, there's this, and there's this, under one banner, but you can pick. Oh, I want to, because I have a Western that I'm working on too. So it's like, if I have a sci-fi book, the caveman book, a Western book, and then one other, and that's my little movie theater, and you can always pick up a new issue and see what's happening with this storyline or whatever. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, I'd have to grow to get there, but
that'd be cool. And also that will help the comic book shops, since the comic book shops are not centralized, they're decentralized. So if you're in your respective area, you could cover like a certain region. So you can, if you want to get this book, if you live in this area, you could go to the comic book shop and pick it up. That's right. and that will get more people in regional areas. It would not nationally distributed like Marvel or DC or Image, but it could potentially get there if Diamond distribution dies and they get replaced with someone else.
It's probably better just to do it locally. Another crew that has an interesting spin is that, have you seen the crew that's called Heroinberg?
No.
Yeah, so they're like based in Pittsburgh, and so they have like a lot of talent working under one banner, and then they also make a I guess you would call it like a TV show. So they not only have their comic books, but then they have a live action acting out where they have people dress up as the characters, and it's done in a campy kind of way, like Batman 66.
Nice.
Or Power Rangers, where like it's obviously people in costumes and the special effects are obviously like done, but they like really do up the camp and fun with it. And so that's cool. They have like building their own little multimedia empire. You can buy the comic books, you can watch the show, like. That's fun, seeing people create something from the ground up. That's really, really fun, So, this is a place to be, and I appreciate all you guys. And we're going to watch the Abductables. It's going to happen. You're 96. What's your percent? What's your percentage on?
96%. Yeah, it would be a shame to get this far and not make it for sure.
It would. We'll do a little blitzkrieg this tomorrow and Monday. I'll make sure to spread it far away as I can with my platform. And we'll try to get you. You're so close. You're like $300, $200, like close to $300, and you're there. So let's hope you can get there.
Yeah,
painfully close.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
I'll even do if EVS does a live stream, I'll even I'll even pay for a little super chat so you can shout it out.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's like, you know, I've had bad luck with super chats because like either they'll like forget to mention mine or like
I had you gotta you know
time it right.
pace your you gotta time it right. Exactly, you got exactly right.
And then I did one, and then the stream ended up getting taken down. So it's like, oh god. But you know, it's still, you know, you never know how these things. It's hard to quantify. Like, oh, I got this many backers from a super chat, but it's like any way you can get it in front of like people. Like, you never know if they're gonna like look at it and then want to back it. So yeah, there's no such thing as a bad promotion.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I'll try to get on Peter Samedi's show too, and I'll give you a shout if I get on there.
Oh, thank you. But, yeah, I'm definitely. I'm not sure what time. I need to double check what time my stream is on Monday. I think it's like early in the day. But I'm definitely gonna try to get on there again, even though it didn't work out last time because it's so popular. So many people want to get on that show now.
Yeah.
I can't say I blame him.
Yeah. Do you think we should wind this up? It's been about an hour and a half, and it's bedtime on my side of the country. I don't know about you guys.
No, it's getting close for me. It's already 9 o'clock, and typically around this time is when I unwind and I watch something on one of the streaming platforms that I have, like either HBO Max or Netflix or something. I try to look for something to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really big into FBI Files. Have you guys seen that?
What's that?
The FBI Files on Amazon Prime.
No.
Oh, it's a great show, man. I guess it came out in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's an hour-long show about reenactment. It's a reenactment of an FBI case that was held like during the 80s, and it's pretty freaking crazy, man. There's some episodes where I was like, wow, that actually happened. I had no idea that happened. Like there's one episode, real quick. There's one episode where they were chasing this guy who was like a straight up sovereign, like those sovereign citizens, like those guys who are like, I don't believe in the U.S. government. I don't believe in any of that stuff. And they're trying to get him for, I think it was a gun. He was selling illegal arms or something like that. I can't remember. And they caught him. And the whole episode is the literal like chase of when they chased him and how he lost him. He lost him twice. They lost him twice. And then they caught him because, the witnesses will call in and say, oh, I saw him, run into this mobile. And there's this crazy scene in the reenactment where they get to a mobile home because that's where he's last spotted at, and the guy literally jumps through the window of the back of the freaking mobile home and it runs into the woods, and they lost him again. It was like, dude, this guy is freaking gnarly, man.
GTA stuff.
He's a sovereign citizen, man. You can't touch him.
I was impressed. I was like, dude, I gotta give him props, man.
At that point, you just kind of root for him because,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Run.
I was like, is he able to, outrun the FBI like that? Then he knows what he's doing. So yeah, let's wind it up. It was a great stream, guys. This is exactly what I want to do for this channel. Is talk about comics, talk about, how much we love the medium, and also support each other's projects, because that's we're living what I guess back in the 80s used to be, which was through comic signs, right? Comic signs was the antiquated social media. You would pick up the signs and be like, oh wow, look at this book from this guy who lives in Texas or New Jersey or in the East Coast, and he has his he's able to get his book here in California through Diamond Distribution. Only ordered like 20 copies, but you had a copy, and that's how people knew about each other back then. And now with social media, it's a lot faster, it's a lot closer. So this is great that we're able to do this and come together and say, hey man, let's support each other's projects and get out there and see if we could give each other a boost over the fence, that big fence of success.
And it's like, Absolutely. YouTube, Indiegogo, Twitter, those things in synergy, that's the marketplace.
Yeah.
We want the marketplace to be a place people want to be. People want to be browsing. They want to be rubbing shoulders. And what are you working on? Oh, what are you working on? We want that marketplace to be vibrant and active with new stuff bubbling up all the time, so people keep coming back. So that's what I say. It's like we're the caretakers of the marketplace. If we treat each other right, we treat the customer right, it's a place people want to be.
Awesome.
That's what I say.
Well said.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go just rub my hands together and think, what am I gonna do with my Canales art?
Yeah, and we'll let us know if you need it sooner than because I know you said you want it for your campaign. I'm not sure when you're going to launch the new one, but just let us know if you need it sooner than.
Yeah, we're thinking about summer for the Caveman book, but again, one thing.
Okay,
I haven't even met my goal, so got to meet my goal. Got to completely fulfill Tales of Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And the next book.
Right on.
So yeah, no rush. I'll be ready. I'll be ready probably around the same time you're ready.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, great. Well, hanging with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good talking to you. Later.
Later.